Hi everybody, Brennan here for Common Motor, common-motor.com on the internet. Today we're going to show you how to do an oil filter clean and engine side inspection on a CB350, but this also applies to 360s and 450s as well. We're going to do it on this 69 350 here. Stay tuned. Alright, so on the Honda 350s, CB350s, CB360s, and CB450 family of bikes, there's a lot of confusion about the oil filter. Most people, when they think oil filter, are thinking something like this. This is an automotive spin-on style filter for a car. Doesn't use one of these. Or people are thinking about a cartridge kind of filter like this, like the 550s and 750s, and a lot of other bikes use a filter like this. This is actually for a CB550. Nope. Not for the twins there. They actually use a centrifugal oil filter, and this is what it looks like. People call it the oil rotor. It's an aluminum cup, and the way it works is oil gets sprayed into the cup, and this cup is spinning on the end of the crankshaft, and centrifugal force causes the dirt and debris to stick to the sides because of physics and centrifugal force, and oil gets pumped in, that's dirty, and then gets pumped out, that's clean, and all the residue, that is the dirt, builds up on the inside of this cup. So when we get to the bike, you actually see the dirt and goo there. We're talking about the cup. But this is part of the bike, and it's attached to the crankshaft. And so you'll see it here in a minute. But that's kind of the explanation of the filter. So if anybody tells you they changed the oil filter on a 350 or a 360 or 450, it's not true. You don't change it, you clean it. That's how it works. So let's talk about some of the cases real quick, because for all the bikes, the process is almost identical, but there are some slight differences with the cases. So here is a case cover for a 350. 450 case cover is very similar. What makes it unique is this little round guy. This is the cover you would take off to access the filter, and it would be sitting right there like that. We'll see it when we're on the bike, since we're doing it on a 350. But 450s and 350s, you can actually clean the filter only by removing this cover. 360 owners, you got a little tougher. Here's a 360 oil cover right here, right-hand cover, and you can see that there's no provision to take off and clean the filter. One of my complaints about the 360, so in order to clean it, whole cover's got to come off in order to clean the filter. So on our 350 here that we're doing the work on, we're going to take the whole cover off anyway so you can see what that process is like. Again, for the 3 different bike models or families of bikes, almost identical process throughout. So this video should cover all of those. Tools, let's talk about some tools right here we're going to use. Number 1 tool on the list, impact driver, and I'm using it with my a little 3-inch extension there to break all those case bolts loose. Of course, nice hammer, like my brass hammer. You will need a set of snap ring pliers to remove the snap ring that holds this cover on. There's a snap ring that goes there. You'll see it on the bike. Snap ring pliers. Other useful things to have is our mallet to help break the case loose, my nylon mallet, and then we're going to need a couple other cleaning things. Razor blade scraper, this is a putty knife to help break the cases loose, and some pliers, flathead screwdrivers, and even like a pick. One more tool that people don't realize is a tool right here. This is I'll move that out of the way. That's an M6 bolt, because our cover here has threads in it. Thread the bolt into it. When these 2 pieces are together, you use the bolt kind of like a wine, like a cork or wine cork opener, corkscrew. That's what I want to say, corkscrew, to pull the 2 apart. Again, we'll see on the bike, and we'll show you how that works. But yeah, a long M6 bolt is what you're going to need. So the 350 engine case here. So this is the cover we were talking about earlier, where the oil filter is going to be. Now, if you're doing just a regular oil filter change, or clean I should say, we're only going to remove this cover. But since we don't know about this engine, what's going on, we're going to take off the whole side cover just to show you that exercise. And also, if you have a 360, that whole cover's got to come off. The first step is using some PB Blaster here. I'm going to kind of soak all these screw heads. A little bit of blaster. We'll take this one off first, and then we'll take the big one. Now this cover does have a particular orientation. When I pull it off, you'll see why. To make it easier, since you're doing it maybe for the first time, you can take a marker and just draw a line here like that. That way you know you line it up the same way. All right, impact driver. Everybody's favorite tool for this. Don't even try to take this open with a regular Phillips. We're just going to use the impact driver to break these loose, because who knows when the last time they were taken out. Three. There is a little notch here in the top for the screwdriver to get in. Let me tap on this a little bit so we're ready to break loose. There we go. I'm applying it too hard. I'm gonna be nice and gentle. I'll be back with a putty knife and we'll pull it off with a putty knife. Just be real gentle with it. It's coming off. Just gotta. That's it. Okay, there's our cover that came off right there. Let me point out a couple of details. We showed you earlier, there's an oil passage hole in the top there, and an oil passage hole there that line up with oil passage holes here in the crankcase. There's one here and one here. A quick trick to know the alignment in case you get it off. So there's a bolt hole here, there's a bolt hole here, there's a cross hole here, and there's a cross hole here. You can actually see a little raise in the casting there for it. So that's how you know your orientation is correct. My little line lines up there. Cool. Put him aside. O-ring number 1. And let's see, there, O-ring number 2 is hiding in here still. We'll have to pry it out with a pick. We'll pull O-ring number 2 out. There we go. Come on. O-ring number 2. The 350, both these O-rings are the same size. On the 450, they're different sizes. Some of you guys may have encountered a gasket like this in some of the gasket kits that would fit on here. You know, the very, very early 350s, like the first batch of 68s, use this style of gasket without the O-ring. So if your cover doesn't have any O-ring grooves in it, that's what it's for, but I've only seen this on the early production bikes. Everything else uses the O-ring, so generally you're not going to use that. All right, so here is the actual filter. Looks just like the one we showed you on the bench. And if you're just doing a regular clean, all you would have to do is remove this cover. We're going to remove that cover to clean it. A tip for cleaning it with this cover on would be to take a rag and stuff a rag underneath it, so when we clean it, all the debris comes on the rag and doesn't fall inside the motor. Just a tip, but yeah, we're going to take that whole cover off and look in there since we have no idea what this motor is. Snap ring pliers. Don't have a set of snap ring pliers, buy a set. They're handy. Snap ring comes right out. This is where it gets a little difficult. So here's the cover. We talked about it being threaded before. Take the cover off. This is an M6 bolt. And we're going to take one of two approaches to taking this cover off. The bolt threads into the middle here. There's actually some threads. Just like that. You just see how it threads in. One technique is we're going to wiggle it and try to pull it out like a wine cork. Usually that works. If it doesn't work, we have a second technique. We take the bolt along like this and we thread it all the way in. The bolt's going to bottom out on the end of the cover, or end of the filter here, and it will push the cover lid off. So let's see if our first technique of just wiggling it, yeah, again, there it goes, came right off. Just like that. So you can see the bolt threaded in, but that was stuck. We could have threaded it in that way. So it doesn't wiggle right off. Try that second method. We run the bolt all the way in. 4 vanes here. They have alignment vanes in there, and an O-ring. All this stuff comes in all the gasket kits, oil change kit, all the way up to the overhaul kit. So that O-ring should be changed as well. Put him down, and there is our filter there. We can get in there and try to start cleaning some of the gack out of it, but I'm going to wait until I pull the whole other cover off so we can actually see it in action, and then we'll get in there and start cleaning. I'm going to go ahead and take the side cover off. I'll put using an extension here on the the impact driver so I can get a little bit more distance to these bolts. There you go. One. And all I want to do is get them loose. And I know I make this look easy. It's only because I've done it a bunch. I've broken many of these in the past, so if you break them or they're not cutting so easy, you know, it's just practice. The key with the impact driver is really putting some pressure onto the driver and also turning the direction you want the screw to go, and then finally giving it a good solid crack with a good hammer. It's a 2-pound brass hammer, so you can get a little bit of force behind it. Footage, all this stuff coming off. Wow, those are, you got super lucky.
Yeah.
Super lucky. So, yeah. Alright, last bolt there. Great. I'm gonna use, this is my my plastic mallet. We're gonna use that to kind of jar the cover loose. There we go. Look at all that oil. There we go. Cover is, all right. Here's our cover coming off. Actually, it's really clean. All right, put him aside, and we'll look inside the motor here. Got some oil draining out. You got a gasket that says Asahi Asbestos. Great. Can't wait to inhale little pieces of that. Alright, well here's our side of the engine here. Clutch basket. Here's the oil filter rotor and kind of the other oil pump, oil pickup, and just kind of taking a look in here and see what's going on. So basically on this guy now we have it open. We're just going to have to basically wipe and scrape the inside of it out. There isn't really a magic method to this. Some people ask me if they can remove it to clean it, and I said that's not necessary. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to get in here with a paper towel and just kind of mop up what oil's in here. And then I'll show you that there's going to be a lot of sludge kind of packed into the sides here because, as I mentioned earlier, the centrifugal force causes all the little dirt and particles to stick to the outside here, so they all get kind of crammed onto the edge here. So I'm just going to use a little screwdriver here and just start kind of scraping, and you'll see after I start scraping it what I'm talking about. You can see there's always a little bit of gunk in here. Your goal is to get this thing spotless, and now, like I said, this one isn't too bad. It really isn't. Like this bike, I think, was well taken care of by a previous owner, or had been serviced. But you know, I've seen these where it's like you see these little veins here. You couldn't even see them because there was a layer of debris packed over them, and people go, "Oh, it's clean because it looks smooth." And you poke it with a screwdriver, and the whole thing crumbles apart. So don't be afraid to get in here and clean it, just like the way your dentist gets into your teeth and kind of scrapes them clean. That's kind of the idea here. As much of this mopped out as I can. And then I'll end up rotating the motor right there. Okay, you can see that with the camera, good. Look at this big puddle of goo here. Watch this. Just, that's what I'm talking about, is just this goo. And to be honest, this filter it's actually pretty clean overall. You just don't know until you get in there. And again, like the way this engine came apart, we didn't know how clean it was going to be until you get in there. So we got lucky on this one, but for every clean one we see, we probably see a dozen dirty ones. So you never quite know what you might get. I'm going to use a little bit of brake cleaner real gently, not a lot, just to help kind of dissolve it. And other than getting in here and kind of scraping it, there isn't like a magic formula to this, other than just kind of scraping it clean, getting all the dirt and goo loose. That's what I'm talking about right there, that kind of goo sludge right there. So we can scoop some more out in the depths of the filter. A little bit right there. So this one's pretty clean, but there's definitely, there's definitely some, you can see there's some goo on it right there. So all that's gotta go. So we'll just keep on scraping it clean so we get it all out of there. Okay, so you can see now our oil filter is really clean on the inside, and all the walls are spotless. And I'm gonna point out a few features here. One is these little veins here. Those veins coincide with the veins here on the cover, and when you put this back on, you gotta line them up so they slide in each other. The other thing I want to point out is I call it the funky nut. This is the oil filter or oil rotor nut. We didn't have to take it off to clean the filter. If you take that nut off, you have to bend a couple tabs. That one has a lock tab there, and then you need our special tool there. That's our 9005 tool, so you can remove that nut. That comes off, and these other pieces come off if you're trying to get into working here, but not necessary. But I wanted to point out that's where that funky nut is. So we're gonna get this buttoned up. Our gasket surface here has been cleaned, all the pieces taken off, and the same thing on the other surface. So we're gonna get this back together, and we cleaned out all the residue that may have been in here, all the dirt. This motor is really clean overall. I didn't take the oil pump off and clean the screen. If your engine's super dirty, that's something you might want to do, but in order to take the oil pump off, you gotta take that off, take that off, and take that off. It all has to come off as an assembly, but that would be a possibility if we thought this thing was super dirty. New O-ring, keeping the kit that goes on the filter cover here. Just slide it on like that. And I'm just gonna use a little drop of oil to help lubricate it. Going back in. That's all we need. Lube it up. And then I'm gonna line my fins up on the inside. Just so you can see that there's some castings here. Like here, 1, 2, 3, 4 little tick marks. They line up with the fins as well. So just in case you were not sure. Push it together like that. Take my bolt out. It just helps me hold it. And my snap ring goes back in. Make sure it's in that groove. There it is. In the groove. All right, that's buttoned up. Now we're going to put the cover on. I should keep taking roll. Our dowel pins, alignment dowels. We took them out to make cleaning a little bit easier. All right, now we're ready for our gasket. All right, here's our gasket, and here's where it lines up. You can see it on the alignment pins right there. But before I just put it on, like you can put it on dry if I want to, I'm gonna do a little trick here so we can take it off easy in the future. I'm gonna use some white grease. I'm gonna grease up all these surfaces here the gasket is gonna touch. So when I go to take it off in the future, it will release easier. Maybe take it off. You don't have to scrape it clean, hopefully. And it also lets you try to reuse the gasket a couple times. So I'm just gonna do that on this surface. I'm also gonna do it on the surface of the cover as well. Just like greasing up a frying pan. Stick in place. Hopefully. Same deal with our cover. We're going to grease them up. So we have better odds in the future taking that gasket off. That's also the gasket touches on that guy. I'm also trying to get big blobs of that white grease on the inside of the gasket. I just kind of want it on that surface there. And our cover goes back on. we're on. So all the bolts we took out here, we're going to be replacing them with Allen bolts. I'm using these guys, stainless steel Allen bolts, our Allen bolt kit for these bikes. Actually, for all the bikes, it makes it worthwhile. The 350, it's part number 4030, but we have one for 360 and 450 as well. And I'm going to use a little bit of anti-seize compound. Just one right here, a little blob of it, and I'm just going to put on the threads here. Get their threads ready. I'm going to do it to all the bolts too. Some more right there, blah blah, and we get all the bolts ready to go. So I'll be back with you in a second. So here is the diagram for our bolt kit right here, and we're focusing on the right crankcase cover, and all the bolts are the same except for this bolt C right here, and that's where the alignment dowels are. So that's this guy, and then it's this one back here under the dipstick. So those bolts are a little bit longer, and make sure you line them up on the chart here. And then we have different bolts for that little cover there, but we'll do these guys first. There's my longer one, he goes here. And my other longer one goes there. And all these guys now have anti-seize on it. And the point of the anti-seize is to keep the bolts from sticking and make it easier to take out in the future. It's all about planning for the next time you gotta take it apart, because you will take it apart. Okay, they're all seated. I'm gonna work around in a pattern to make sure they're snug even. So I'm gonna start in the middle. I'm gonna be like here and kind of work back and forth. So go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We'll come back around. I get them all. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's it. Not crazy tight, because you want to be able to get them back off in the future. All right, I'll wipe off some of that extra white grease that oozed out, and get ready to put that guy back together. Okay, here's our cover going back on. We're going to put a new O-ring here. A new O-ring goes into that groove there. Like that. Put a new O-ring into this groove here, the engine crankcase. Make sure not to drop it in the engine. Just use a tiny dab of grease on here. A little grease on there just to help that O-ring sit, not a ton, just a little bit. You can use some oil as well, the grease to stay. Okay, we had our little alignment mark washed off, but we had that trick we talked about, saying here's a hole here and a hole here. We have the alignment, another hole there, a hole there, hole there, hole there. So that's my alignment. Alright. And we got some new bolts. Alright, and Allen head bolts. Done.
All right, everybody. So I hope that the oil filter clean, open up the crankcase video has been helpful for you. Again, all this applies to the 350 family of bikes, the 360 family of bikes, and the 450 family of bikes. They're all very similar in construction. So this video should cover all those bases. Again, this is Brendan with Common Motor, common-motor.com on the internet. Make sure you follow us on Instagram. Be our friend on Facebook. Go ahead and subscribe to this YouTube channel and subscribe to our newsletter, and we'll see you next time.
sucked.